Okay, in this video we're going to walk through how to move around in Revit by using the sample architecture project. So what I'm going to ask you to do is once you start Revit and it comes up to the open screen here, go ahead and launch the sample architectural project. Go and double click on that and it's going to open up the preloaded project in Revit. Alright, now that we're in Revit, some things I want you to take note of and be aware of what's happening here. The first is at the top of the screen, across the top here, this is our ribbon bar, okay? Behind each one of these tabs are additional tools, okay? Now, we are on a sheet right now. This is a sheet that is based inside of this project browser. If I slide down the project browser, we are on what is called title sheet. I know that because it is darkened, this is bolded in the browser, and you can read the name at the top of the screen here on this tab. That's the sheet that is active. If we were to slide back up here to the top in this browser, and I double click on the floor plan, all right, it closes what has been opened here. If I hit the little plus, it opens up what's underneath the floor plans. So this is how you can start to minimize things in your project browser or open them up to see what's underneath of it. So I can go ahead now and I can double click on the level 1 and that's going to open up my floor plan. Now you can see, if I go back up to the tabs at the top of the screen, all of these are active. So if we are in a title sheet, these tools at the top are not active. If we go to a floor plan or other plans where you can actually utilize the tools, they become active. So at the top of the screen, this is our ribbon bar. Now, from the top, we see that we have the architecture tab. If we keep moving across, we have structure, we have steel, precast, systems, annotate. There are tabs all the way across. Underneath of every one of these tabs, you have tools. Okay, we will utilize several of these tabs in the class, but we will not use all of the tabs. Okay, with Revit, very much like Autodesk or AutoCAD software, we kind of scratch the surface. Revit can do so much that what we are using it for is really the basic application of Revit. So, I'm going to go back here to the architecture tab at the top, so this is active, and just let you see the tools. Now, we go up here to the top further, and I click on the R. This gives us a move, a size, a minimize, maximize. You can also do the same over here on the left side of the screen, minimize, maximize, and close. If I pull down the File button, this is where we save, save as, and print from. This is where you can get a new file and open. All right, so this is very similar to other programs with the File function button. Okay, we have Quick Save and other tools at the top. We also have the Undo button. The Undo button resides up here as well. Very important when you need to get out of doing something if you deleted something that you didn't want to get rid of. Okay, now, we're going to start navigating around, and one of the things that I'm going to have you do right off the bat with Revit is I'm going to have you take this Properties bar at the top, and I want you to left click on that, hold it down, and then drag this out of its location. Keep holding it and dragging it across the screen with your mouse until it gets all the way to the other side and it expands, kind of flattens out across the screen. Then let go of the left mouse, and this expands so you can see the full property. The reason why I have you do this is because when you have a fully developed project browser with sections and renderings and all the other things that we see here in the sample, you want to see the depth within this project browser. The same thing with the properties. As I pull this open, there's a lot of information in this property tab. To scroll up and down in it can take a lot of time and be a little more confusing to see all the details. So make sure you do that. Go ahead and pull that over. All right. So with that set up, let's take a look at this floor plan. Now, it is a floor plan. It's a level 1 floor plan. And a standard floor plan is set up. Oh, and by the way, we're going to navigate and move around here. If I press in on my roller ball, so my 3-button roller ball mouse, if I press in on that wheel, you notice it turns into a pan symbol. I can pan back and forth when I move my mouse. If I roll the ball or the wheel, you can zoom in and out. Okay? So this is why you need a 3-button roller wheel or roller ball mouse, so you have that functionality. Okay. Now, when you're looking at the floor plan itself, this view is as if the walls of the house have been sliced and then everything above that slice is removed, so you're looking down into the house. Okay, that's your basic floor plan. Now, let's go ahead and let's take a look at some of the other views that we have in Revit. Now, if I come down over here and from floor plans in the browser and start working my way down, I have 3D views. So let's go to the first 3D view, which is called the approach. So double click on approach and it should open that view. Now, this is the approach that I guess would be from the street view, and you can see that it's fairly dark, and that's because if we look down at the bottom of the screen, we can see that we have shadows turned on. All of the tools at the bottom of the screen affect either detail level, it affects the shading, the sun path, shadows, and the like. This is also where you can have some quick and temporary hide features and things of that nature. So this is affecting that view. You can also notice that these trees look like cardboard cutouts. That's because of the particular view style that is being selected. So if I were to click on the view style and change it from shaded to realistic, that's going to change and actually show you more of a realistic view. It's not a rendered view, but more of a realistic view of the trees. But what will also happen is it's going to take quite a bit of time to get this to show up. What happens is Revit is crunching all of the leaves on these trees to show you what graphically it would look like. Okay? Now, if we were to go ahead and try to maneuver this particular 3D view, we'll notice that it's actually fairly chunky and difficult to move around in this particular view. That has to do with the ability for Revit to graphically represent things in a 3D realistic mode. That also has to do with the computing power of the computers. So I'm going to take it back to shaded, and I'm actually going to close my approach, and I'm going to go over here and say, let's go in from the front yard. Take a look at the front yard, okay? And this time, we're going to go ahead and play with some of these navigation tools. We have two ways to navigate Revit. One of the first ways is this cube. If we were to click on one of the corners of the cube and hold down the button and then move our mouse, you can see that we are now turning this structure around. We are also turning the site. So we're turning the entire project, all based on the view cube. We can also let go of the view cube and come down to the navigation wheel. All right. The navigation wheel, if you hit the little pull down underneath of it, gives you several options for the navigation wheel. There's a full, a mini. I usually always just use the full navigation wheel. If I click on it and come into my drawing, I see this navigation wheel chasing my mouse. If I were to take and hold down orbit, and orbit, it functions in a very similar manner to the view cube. Okay? So I can orbit all the way around the pivot point of my drawing. And you can see the pivot point functioning right in the center of the drawing. If you click on the word center and move that pivot point, that will change where the orbit actually turns on. So that's important. If you want to see something specifically and you're not getting a good view of it, you may need to change where the center location is on your full navigation wheel. Okay? So we'll keep playing around with this in a different view. But for now, I'm going to hit the little X on the corner, right corner of the navigation wheel. And let's go ahead and close yard. We'll go ahead now and let's jump into the kitchen. So we open up the kitchen and let's take a look to see what's going on here in the kitchen. I will grab that navigation wheel again. All right, I'm going to double click on the living room. And now I'm inside of the living room, turning on the navigation wheel. If I want to walk inside of this structure, I can hold down the walk tool and then start moving my mouse. And this is moving me forward in the structure. However, if you move too fast in one direction, you will run through things very, very quickly. So the way that I like to do it is I like to hold down the look tool and press down on the arrows on the keyboard. This also gives me a way to better direct my camera. So I can walk out the door, turn, and look at this nice cardboard person standing on the balcony. If I want to actually turn this person into a real person and not a cardboard cutout, I can click on the shaded or the graphic display and click on realistic. We'll then see this person actually get transformed into an image of a person. Okay, and you can see the difference in realistic to the shaded view. All right. Now, I can still use the look tool, and I can turn, and then I can start moving back into the building. All right. And the realistic tool, you can actually see a lot more texture on the carpet and other areas being far more robust than when it is simply in the shaded view. All right. So now let's go ahead and take a look at what this would look like in a rendered view. So I'm going to come over here to my project browser, slide down the left side, and find where it says living room. I'm going to double click on the living room, and now I can see this is a rendered view. This is where if all of the lighting is set the way that we want this to be set, and it renders all the information from the materials to the reflections to how the lighting is going to bounce off of other pieces in this model. This is what it would look like, as realistic as possible. All right. So Revit does a really nice job creating renderings, and most renderings now are sent to the cloud to render. We'll be doing that with the Autodesk cloud rendering tools. Okay, so there's plenty of other renderings in here. If you wanted to bounce around, you can see what the kitchen looks like as a rendered view. And it's really calculating the surface, the type of surfaces, the reflective nature of the surfaces, and then how the light is going to come through these windows based on the position of the sun at the given time of year and the time of day that this rendering has been set up for. So renderings can get pretty complex. Now, let's go ahead and let's take a look at some of the other areas here. I'm going to go ahead and minimize my floor plan, minimize my 3D view, and I'm going to take a look at the building elevation. So elevation, building elevation, I'll double click on east, and this is showing me the building elevation as if I am standing looking at the building from the outside. Okay, this building elevation is based off of an elevation mark that would be set up out here in the yard that you would then be able to see and manipulate its location and the light. As you can see at the top of the screen, all of the tabs that I had opened are still open and available for me. Now, this is great if I'm going back and forth between tabs. It can become cumbersome if I have too many tabs open. So you have to be careful not to let this push all your tabs across, and then you end up getting a pull down of tabs and have 40 tabs open. So make sure as you're working, you're closing tabs and opening tabs. Okay. So the East Elevation tab also has the elevation set for the different heights from the first floor to the second floor. We'll end up setting up foundation heights and the like for all of that. So I'll go ahead and close up the East Elevation. This time I'm going to go down to Sections and Building Section. We'll go to the Building Section first and take a look. This is where you can see the house has been sliced in half. A portion of it has been removed, and then I can zoom in and take a look at what this place looks like in its cross section. Now, this is not a very detailed cross section at this point, but these can become very detailed. So you can see all the different materials and the thicknesses and the relationship between these materials. A typical wall section, this is where you'll start to see a whole lot more detailed information. Now, a typical wall section, if I zoom in, you can see that there is a call out. This is where you are magnifying a portion of the wall, and this magnification is then being set up and placed on sheet A104, and it's number 6. Okay, so here, typical floor wall connection. This is a typical foundation detail. Well, this is going to be the foundation. This is the detail. If I find it and go to it, you can see that this is that detail. Okay. Not laid out and labeled or anything to that effect, but it's showing you that the views do link up. Right, so one of the last things we want to take a look at before I want you just to explore is here we can see schedules and quantities. This is a planting schedule. This schedule is based off of the plantings that are been based into this project. So if I were to go back to this title sheet and take a look at some of the trees and other plantings that would be in this model, this planting schedule is based off of that. Schedules can be very useful for windows and doors and finishes and things of that nature, okay? So at this point, what I'm going to have you guys do is I want you to explore. I want you to navigate around in Revit. I want you to go to the different elevations. I want you to go to the different floor plans and go to the different 3D views, move around inside them, all right? And then if you start having questions, please don't hesitate to ask me. When we get together, we can move through those. And then we're going to be getting into drawing walls next time we jump into Revit.